Welcome to Through the Back Door, a podcast brought to you by Blossom Night, a fashion networking party in New York City. I'm your host, Claire Vastola. In this show, we spotlight the talented individuals in the fashion industry and discuss their experiences and insights. Let's go through the back door. Hi, welcome to Through the Back Door. Today we have our next guest, Carlos Reyes from Renacio. We're so excited. Carlos is an amazing designer and they're about to have their next collection in New York Fashion Week, and we thought we'd catch up with them and see how they're doing. How are you doing?
I'm doing so well. I'm very excited, but I'm so very overwhelmed because, like you said, I'm getting a collection ready for Fashion Week, and we are exactly today a month out. It's in September 10th, so I'm very picking my days to relax and then picking my days to just hammer in some work. So very stressful, but very, very excited. How are you?
Good. I'm good. I'm so excited to be here. Yeah. So basically, thank you so much for being on the show. Let's get into it. So how long have you lived in New York City?
I've been in New York for a year and a half now, just over, I think. It's been a lot of figuring the city out. I'm originally from Texas, and I'd been doing New York Fashion Week for the past 4 years, and it just got to the point where I was like, I just need to be here. It's easier. The connections that you make here, the community is a lot easier when you're living here, and it's proven that since I've been here. As soon as I got here, I hit the ground running, and it's been a year and a half of constant networking and enjoying the city and what it offers.
Yeah, definitely. That's really interesting. I didn't know it's only been a year, but I do know there's some designers that show in New York Fashion Week and they had been in Wisconsin or other places and then they moved to New York. What do you feel is your experience as a designer being in a separate location from New York, but then showing in New York Fashion Week? What are the big differences?
Yeah, it's a huge difference in terms of, from my perspective, the first thing that comes to mind is casting my team, not just my models, but casting who's going to help me with hair and makeup, who's going to help me assist backstage. Before, it was I would hire people that I didn't know, and I just had to hope and pray that the garments fit, because I couldn't if people weren't coming with me from Texas, which a lot of them were, so I could do fittings there. Otherwise, I'd have to wait until the day before to do a fitting and make sure it fits right, and then change things. But now in New York, I'm oh, okay, I can cast everybody here, just show up to my studio. Everything's so much easier. Right now, I'm not doing Paris Fashion Week this season, but I've done it twice before. And it's the same perspective of I don't know, a lot of people over there, and I don't know how to speak French that well, and I don't know how to do all these things, but you just it's a little bit of a rite of passage, trying to figure out and problem solve on your own, and then testing your networking skills online. So it's a lot of DMing people, getting people's measurements online, and blah, blah, blah. So that's a snippet of the difficulties of what it is, but it's the bulk of it. It's the bulk of what's on my mind right now, at least. So yeah.
Yeah, no, it's definitely nice to have people in person trying things on. You've made the in-face connection with the models and know they're going to show up and no one's going to screw you over last minute or something like that. Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. It's really interesting. Yeah, so basically, how did you start this fashion journey? You said it's been about 4 years of Runway. That was what you said?
Yes, of New York Fashion Week Runway. And then I started the brand about 5.5 years ago. I was in school. It's basically as soon as I learned how to make a dress, I just started dressing people. In Dallas, I was doing a lot of drag queens. So I just put on a regular fashion show, this beautiful event. It was a church in Dallas, was called The Church, and I just had some drag performers. In the beginning days, I had a lot of burlesque dancers and porn stars and just people that were very comfortable with themselves, with their body, and stage presence. And so I just started there, and it was a lot of audacity and a lot of not judging myself or thinking about what it could look like, but just putting my work out there. And it's a lot different now. I'm a lot more critical of myself, but it is those beginning days. It's oh, okay, it's so pivotal to not think about what everybody else is doing, not paying attention to anything else, just do your thing and go, and then just see where it takes you.
Yeah, having your own focus on what you want to do, not looking at your surroundings. Yeah, that's really interesting. How old were you when you started sewing and doing all that?
21 or 22. I think it was 22. Yeah, I'm 27 now. So
okay. Wow, that's
Hmm.
amazing. Yeah, that's so fun. And it's like such a great like community of people to like be supportive and do this like extravagant thing, which is
Yeah,
like
absolutely.
fashion, especially in Texas too, you know? Yeah.
Mhm.
So who's like one of your biggest influences, or what like design aesthetic do you feel like you like are more drawn to?
Oh, okay, that's a good question. My favorite artist, she's not alive, but she's not in fashion, but she's a painter called Remedios Varo, and she has an aesthetic that I always like, whenever I'm feeling stuck or whatever, I'll just like open up like the Pinterest board and type in. This is the aesthetic that I aim for. It's very like alchemical, it's a little whimsical, it's very dark, but it also like high femininity, very demure and dainty, and it's like very, it's that kind of like whimsical aesthetic. Yeah, yeah. She's like always the kind of like a guiding light of like, okay, what do I need to do to make this collection a little strange or a little different or a little bit more? Then I look at her and I see the different silhouettes that she creates. She has a lot of art, like painting, where she has like very, very whimsical fashion where someone's dressed up in a boat. Like their dress is a boat. Or like they open the
Oh,
jacket and it's like a bunch of stuff inside, or it's like whatever. So it's like these kind of like off the box, off the wall ideas that are really cool. Um but yeah, yeah, she's like the biggest inspiration I'd say at the moment.
yeah, it's kind of like multiple worlds inside of one thing or something like that. And it's like a little
Yeah.
goth and dark.
Hmm.
Yeah, I could see that definitely, like looking at your stuff for sure.
Hmm.
It tells a story, you know? So that definitely falls into your like creative process. Like, do you consider like when you're creating a collection, are you kind of doing a continuation from the last thing, or is it new every single time? Like, how are you kind of thinking when you're doing like collection to collection?
Yeah, I consider myself like still like a baby when it comes to fashion and storytelling and conceptualizing. Like a few collections ago, I did like a Cupid thing, and then I did like the myth of Eros, and it was like a mythical story. And I've been kind of trying to figure out where I fall between this kind of like fashion storytelling. And my last collection was inspired by my partner who killed himself, like Halloween, like 2, 3 years ago, and then the grieving story of that, and then figuring out how I could tell stories through grief. And then that really did super well. And so I'm like, okay, how can I continue off of this? Not be so dark, but be a little bit more relatable. The story of grief was super relatable, and I got a lot of comments on that. But this next collection is about shame. So I've been asking like all my best friends like what your biggest shame is. Like what it makes you uncomfortable, what makes you feel really vulnerable, whatever. And so each look in the collection is a kind of different interpretation of a different type of shame and things like that. So I'm trying to figure out within the brand as a whole of like, how do all these stories fit together, and how can I make this aesthetic still cohesive while telling like a conceptual story and making it make sense to the audience member. So that's kind of what I'm thinking right now. I'm gonna really try to push theatricality. I think when I was on the show, OMG Fashion, one of my biggest critiques was like on my final look, it was like gimmicky or something. And that's been a comment that I've gotten before. And I think it's interesting because it does make me super self-conscious, and I do feel a little bit ashamed of that. But then in this collection, I think I want to lean towards it a little bit and actually like have a section of the collection that is high gimmick. Just like, okay, let me give you like use Runway, where it's just heavy on the theme, give you a theatrical moment, and then follow through with like really good technique, really good garment making, really good like model choices. And so it's like it's a gimmick, but it has a fabulous follow through and with that. So it like it stays consistent in that way. But yeah,
I kind of am getting like that moment on like the show is like maybe your moment of shame. I mean, I don't want to speak to that, but it's something where you're like, you know what? Like that was a little like intense for me, or that was how the feedback I'm getting and it's making me insecure, but I'm gonna just like really lean into it, really like express this and like own this. And that's how you really do get rid of shame, is by fully embodying and accepting and owning and outing, that like experience. So I think that's kind of interesting actually, is to like almost ramp it up to where you're like, no, it is what it is, you know what I mean? So I think that kind of aligns in some kind of capacity. That's my take on it.
It does, absolutely. And I didn't even connect those dots to we're having this conversation right now. It's interesting. But yeah, like on the show, it was kind of an inception point in a way, because I do just get like praise, like because I'm getting feedback from my friends and family, and I'm getting feedback from other people who are like pay tickets to see the show. So it's like I get a lot of good feedback from all around, and I've gotten like some cameos in magazines and things like that. But on the show, it's a competition where they're going to judge you, and even though I won the show, still feel like, oh, I didn't get like the praise that I was hoping for. I didn't get this. I didn't get, da, da, da. But it's like, nonetheless, the comments they gave me are so valid, and they're so like, you're right. Like, if I do want to be successful in the real world outside of this show, like I want to be the next big fashion house. So like, if you're telling me this is that, okay, maybe this is something, a part of my identity, like a gimmicky kind of thing, or should I lean into it? Or should I go completely astray from it, like the professionals are saying or whatever? And this is just like, again, I consider myself a baby, so this is my time to experiment. Okay, so let me lean into the gimmicky and see what happens.
Since you brought up OMG Fashion, it's first off amazing that you were even on it, I think that's so cool that they're really like supporting emerging designers and wanting to do that. And I thought it was crazy that they had so many different people on the show. So how did that start? Did they reach out to you, or did you apply? Like, what was the whole details of that?
Yeah, so after my show last time, Boat to Oblivion, A Story of Brie, my collection last year, one of the audience members, who was one of my friends, they sent me a DM that I didn't open for like a week. And then afterwards I was like, because I was just so like, I'm no social media mode, whatever. After I opened it, after like a week passed from the collection, I'm like emerged from the cave. I like was getting back to people. He sent me a TikTok that Julia Fox had posted it, like, oh, she's looking for emerging designers. And I was like, okay, let me apply. So I applied that day. Immediately a producer got back to me and they're like, hey, we love your stuff. Are you ready for an interview? And I was like, work, let's do it. And so I interviewed. And they said, we love you. Are you ready tomorrow for like a round 2? And then I just kept doing the rounds. And then finally I was cast. And so that's how the process went. It was very fast because I kind of like, I was one of the last people cast, and I was also one of the last people like in the episode. I'm like episode 8 or 7 out of like 8 or 9 episodes or something like that. So if you watch the show, it's not like a full season of like 14 designers that are competing against each other. It's 3 new designers every episode.
Yeah.
So I was lucky enough to cast the tail end of their final castings. So yeah, that's kind of how the casting process went. It was fun. It was very intimidating.
Was it in New York?
Very cool. Yes.
Yeah, that's good.
Yes, it was in New York. I'll just say that.
Yeah. No, I love that. I did like that they got to get so many designers exposure, but I do think it would be kind of cool if like the next season they bring back all the winners and then it's like a more like long, 8 episodes with the same cast, you know what I mean? I think that could give like more of a platform to people who maybe won, like maybe could be on the next one or something. But
I mean, that would be really fucking cool. After like we essentially, if you didn't watch the episode, there's a mini challenge and then there's a main challenge. I won the mini challenge, and then I was like, oh, I got this, I'm gonna win. Da, 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 da. I did win the main challenge too, but that's where I got my back critiques. So then when that happened, it was just like, okay, you won, bye. And it's like, no, but like, give me like more time to like show you how I can implement your critiques. Like let me show you like. Because instantly when they said that, I was like, fuck, I should have done this. I could have done that. Then let me pivot. And then I would love the opportunity, because on these other fashion shows on TV, you see the designer kind of grow. On any of these competition shows, you see like them implementing their critiques and whatever. And that's what I really wish I would have had. Yeah. Aside from the fact that it would have been more airtime and press for the show, for the runway and for my brand and stuff like that. And people would fall in love with
your personality and like root for you based off all these things. Hopefully. And that's one thing I kind of wish I thought was a little missing, I do think it's great getting so much exposure, but I think you would have been really good on like a full season,
I would have loved it. Yeah. So Julia Fox, if you're listening, Law Roach, come on, have me back.
Oh my God, cool. I would die.
But if not, like I'm going to be doing the fashion stuff anyways. And
I mean, it's all good just to like get yourself out there, be seen. Like, what did you feel like you noticed anything different, like Instagram or exposure or people reaching out to you, like any kind of interesting opportunities come from that? Or do you say?
So here's the thing is that this is like, I hate to mention this about the show or whatever, but I told them there was like an hour of confessionals that we did, and only about, 5 minutes per person made it onto the show. They cut out where I talked about Renacio, and Renacio is not my name. Renacio is my brand. Yeah. And so on the show, I'm just Carlos the designer, and there's no mention of Renacio. Even other people who were on the show in other episodes had a hard time finding me on social media. So the show in that way didn't highlight the brand, which really sucks. So it was kind of left to me to like post about it and whatever, that kind of like, I feel like the ball was dropped in that way.
Yeah, like
Maybe I
maybe
should
they
have just
introduce
gone
your
by
name.
Renacio.
Maybe like I don't know. I mean, it's like, with the podcast we were talking earlier, it's like each mistake, you like learn. It's like
Exactly.
maybe that's just the name now,
Yeah, exactly. Maybe my name is Renacio. Exactly, everyone. Hi, I'm Renacio. So
I
like,
love it. I think I was calling you Renacio to my sister, and I was
yeah,
like, wait, that's the brand.
yeah. I mean, that's totally fine. Some people just know me as that because that's my Instagram handle, so that's fine. I'll go by
Yeah,
Renacio in the fashion world. It's so so be it. But that
yeah.
was definitely a learning lesson after that
Mhm.
show. Of like, fuck, maybe I should just go by Renacio instead of Carlos because it just decomplicates things. Like Terry
Yeah.
Mugler, his name wasn't Terry. Like.
Mhm.
Who else? There's like so many people that like change their
So
names. So
many.
it's just like,
Yeah.
okay, maybe I'll just do that
Yeah.
and that'll be easier.
I mean, it's like, it's brand recognition, it can never
Mm-hmm.
hurt. Like, I think physically you have brand recognition, so it's kind of like you might as well like lean into it, What is
Sure.
Renacio from?
So Renacio, in the beginning of my branding conceptualizing, my biggest inspiration, like when I first started, was like the Renaissance, as it is like a lot of people.
Mhm.
It just means Renaissance in Spanish. So Renacio
Okay.
is a Renaissance. So it's like it's
I
like
love that.
Renacimiento, which is also Renaissance, but like it's like the shortened version. And that's all it is. And then it just stuck,
Mhm.
and it's really elegant. Like I like what I did with the logo, and then like it's very simple, and
Mhm.
nobody's taken it on any websites or anything. So I'm like, okay, mine.
Oh, that's the best.
You know,
Yeah, I mean, honestly, I think it makes sense with like your aesthetic. Like, honestly, it's like, oh, yeah, you see it and then you hear the name, you're like, that makes sense. If it was like
yeah.
Alien God or something, like you'd be like,
Right,
what?
right.
Yeah. But anyways, like back to the show, like what was your favorite moment from it, like other than winning?
When I heard the critiques for the mini challenge, because
Mhm.
that look, I was panicking. Like I was truly panicking all night. I don't work with denim. The mini challenge
Mhm.
was. This is also something that was unclear in the show whenever we were doing the live viewing, is that we
Okay.
weren't allowed to sew for the mini challenge. It was just glue and pins. So that
Yeah.
whole look is just glued and pinned together. And I did like this mosaic of like the Catholic imagination. I did like little frames as a dress,
Mhm.
like Sacred Heart, blah, 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 blah. And I don't work with denim. I don't work with these materials. I only sew. I never glue. I never pin. So it's like just like the validation that I can do these things with a limited amount of time, with limited whatever, and that they loved it. So it's just like, okay, that was like a really cool moment in the show. Also, getting to
Mhm.
know the other designers. There's Asato and there's Deborah. Asato has a sickening aesthetic. Before we started the competition, we were like looking at each other's Instagrams. Deborah wouldn't share or look at ours because she didn't want to be psyched out. Like she saw us and she was intimidated. And then
Yeah,
Asato and I were just like, well, I want to see yours, I want to, whatever.
Hey.
His aesthetic is incredible. It's incredible. So if you look him up on Instagram, Asato is the brand.
Yeah, I'll pop
He's
it
a
up on the
Japanese
screen.
designer. I could like link it here or something, or I can send it to
Yeah.
you, but his aesthetic is crazy. Like it's so good and it's instantly intimidating. And then
Mhm.
it just like getting to meet like these other cool people. I got to like say hi to people from a different episode, but we weren't really allowed to talk. We were like kept in
Mhm.
separate rooms because there was like twists in the show that we couldn't know about
Mhm.
and stuff like that. But yeah, so those were, I think, my favorite moments of the show, I'd say.
Yeah, how was it? Did you get to interact with like Julia Fox or Roach or like anybody, or was it just mostly when you were recording?
So when we were recording, and then like she came up and hugged us afterwards, like a snippet, like, oh hey,
Mhm.
whatever. And she came up to me and she told me, like, congrats, you're the only person that won 2 challenges so far. So like I won the mini challenge and then I was like, I swept. And I was like, okay, thank you. And then
Yeah.
Roach, who I was really intimidated by, we, chatted for a little bit longer. And he was like, I really love your outfit. He said this on the show too. He's like, I wish you would have done something like your outfit, because I also made my outfit too. And I was like,
yeah.
okay, damn. And then he was like, I'll buy it and I'll post it on like whatever. And then he never did. But he did tell me he loved it and he would buy it, but he didn't. But that's fine. Yeah. So that was like minimal interaction that I had with both of them. Obviously, it would have been super nice to like sit down and chat for a little bit longer. But they were like, I think they had to like film another episode or something, so they had to go. But yeah.
Okay, yeah, I'm always curious, like how much interaction people have with like the hosts or something like that, because it's like, oh, did you become best friends with Julia Fox? You know?
So,
yeah.
That would have been cool.
Yeah. So basically, like, we kind of mentioned like all of the things, like, so just going on the next show that I imagine you'll be on, you know what I mean? It's just like,
Totally.
the branding, like mentioning yourself, like, do you think you had to like psych yourself up, or you were just like, you think that like initial win was like, you're like, oh, I'm good?
I knew in reality shows, like they definitely like you don't want to be in the mindset of like, oh, I think I'm gonna win, whatever. I was extremely confident though. And I
Yeah, I
had
mean,
like
to be
a sketch of
fair,
an idea. I
yeah,
think
it looked
like I
really
was
good,
like,
and it.
so I've done a good amount of runways in Dallas before I even touched New York or did
Mhm,
anything here. I did some shows like all around Texas.
mhm.
Um, it's just a good ground to experiment with your creativity and your time management. I have horrible time management. But I'm also a Gemini and I work well under pressure. So I like to be like in that pressure cooker. So when I first started, I started in Texas. I did like a bunch of shows there, and that was just breeding ground for myself to test the limits of like my time management and creativity. And that's what you have to do to start is just put yourself out there, find a venue, find anybody. I would recommend finding other creatives who also want to showcase with you too. So it doesn't matter
Oh
if they're
yeah.
like in design. They could be like painters, or you can have like a gallery space where like there's someone who does screen printing, there's someone who does jewelry, there's someone who does fashion. Luckily, I've always been able to share the stage with other fashion designers. So there's always been that opportunity. Um,
Mhm.
I had sponsors for my first couple shows. That's huge. So if you can put together a pitch deck of your brand, make it look
Mhm.
as beautiful as you can, and then pitch it to
Mhm.
people like other brands of like, hey, I can put like posters of your stuff, I can put this, I can, any kind of marketing strategy where you can have money to put into models, to put into fabric costs, because fabric can get so expensive, materials, the
Yeah.
venue itself. See if a venue will sponsor you, like hit up a drag show and be like, hey, you're already doing this drag show, do you mind opening? I can open for you with a mini fashion show, and you
Oh
can
yeah.
dress some of the drag performers. There's so many ways to put yourself out there. You just have to be creative with it and not be
Mhm.
afraid. I think one of
Yeah.
the biggest things too is to not be shy with it. I've done like a 180. Like I used to be so audacious, and I used to just message whoever, and I used to like get all these opportunities just because I was just like asked. But now I feel like I'm so careful and I'm calculated, and I'm like, oh my gosh, what's happened? But it's always about staying within that kind of like the inner child that's just curious, and then putting
Mhm.
yourself out there with the runways, because you can make it happen. Like it's out there. There's so many opportunities,
Mhm.
especially in New York. Every season, I get so many companies that want to put on the shows for me. They have their fee and they have their whatever, and some are pretty reasonable. But I find it best to just like the more control that you have within the show, the less can go wrong, the less you'll be upset about, the less the list goes on.
Mhm.
And that's how you put it
Yeah.
on, I think.
Yeah, just like kind of just going for it, like hitting. I mean, that's something I notice a lot with emerging designers that I talk to is it's a little bit of like just put it out there, just be a little like, hopeful, ask everyone, tell everyone what you're trying to do. And are you just doing
Renacio,
runway? Are you trying to do ready to wear? Like, what is the brand plan for Renacio?
That's a great question. My business partner asks me all the time. I'm planning on diving into jewelry after this
Oh.
season is done. So like this is an example. Like I would do like little printed things with like gold framing, and then like a
Oh, I love
pearl,
that.
things like that that are very like unique to the brand, even like moons or stuff like that. That kind of
Mhm.
um grow what the brand represents and grow the aesthetic of the brand. But right now, I'm just doing runway. A lot of brands, especially these bigger ones, their main sell is like perfume. So if you look at
Mhm.
like Chanel or Dior, like they get their money off of perfume. That's like the industry standard.
Mhm.
I'm smaller. I don't have perfume, so I have to find my other thing, that I can branch out
Yeah.
with. I'm very open-minded where the brand goes. I'm not forcing any direction. I'm seeing where it leads me, which is always kind of what I've done. Maybe it's not the smartest for business strategy, but right now I'm still, like I said, like very young in my brand. I'm like a baby. I'm figuring things out. So I'm gonna see what bites, what
Mhm.
organically comes about. And right now, putting on these shows, hopefully this can provide some income for me aside from the brand exposure and finding
Mhm.
more clients. I do like runway garments I do red carpet
Yeah.
gowns
I was gonna ask.
for people. I do drag outfits. I do weddings. So it's like it just depends on what clicks. So aside from the
Mhm.
jewelry, probably going to be putting a lot more effort towards weddings too, and then posting those because I try to keep the brand page very curated about what the aesthetic is intentionally. So I
Mm-hmm.
don't have a lot of like my client work on my Instagram. So I might
Mm-hmm.
even, I don't know, make like another Instagram for like the Renacio client and like things that I've made in the
Mm-hmm.
past. Who knows? We'll see.
Yeah, I was gonna say, like,
Um,
do you have like a social media strategy, or how does social media affect you essentially? Because I know it's so important.
yeah, social media is super important. It's how I find a lot of clients.
Hmm.
I find it really difficult doing everything else to also film and also post on TikTok and Instagram and like do these videos that could go, if they go viral, that'll help me a lot. But it's also like taking the time to do those things. And then you have to also be like a lighting person. You have to be like a video editor. You have to do all of these things that are like, oh,
Hmm.
this is a completely separate job, and I don't have time to do that because I'm doing the actual job of being a designer. And it's just like, and it is an excuse at the end of the day. Like there are simpler ways that I could do all this, but it's just like it's grueling work, and I'm like, oh, but the
Hmm.
priority has to be making good fashion, not like
Hmm.
posting it. But the idea is to eventually hire someone to do that for me, and then they can like I'll do because I have like maybe 20 TikToks on my phone that are just not posted because they're not edited together. So I'm like, okay, someone I could just like give them the clips and they edit it and post it, and then just, the cycle keeps going like that. But yeah, and I've done such a bad job. It's been a year since the last show, and I did like post them all, and I did like multiple posts for each look. But I just started like the series of like explaining each look by look, like what the
Hmm.
concept meant, like what all these things, and I'm so late to it because I'm like 2 looks in. And
Hmm.
now I'm gonna have another collection, so it's like, but whatever.
What would you give someone advice who wants to be in the position you're at? Like, what do you think they need to know? What do they need to encompass? What do they need to pay attention for?
I mean, what position? Like,
Well,
like
like
creatively,
where you're
or
at, like showing in Runway, like
oh, I see,
putting out looks, like people are in a
I
position where
see.
they're, in school or haven't even done that or like want to do what
Yeah,
you're doing.
yeah. I say I would ditto what I said earlier about just putting yourself out there. You can make a runway
Hmm.
on your own. I've been even thinking about there's so many just like empty alleys in New York, and maybe this is like a
Mm,
safety issue or whatever with the fuck. But if you get a big enough crowd, who cares? Like you just
yeah.
like show up in an alley and make a runway. You don't have to pay for a
Hmm.
venue. All these things there are. If anything has taught me from Texas to New York, it's like there are no rules. Like you like people get money. Like there's such capital in this city, and there's so many people that are breaking rules left and right. Join them. Like figure out a way to make it like zero cost to you. You can go to on Facebook Market. There's always people that are selling bolts and bolts of fabric for like $1 a roll. There are
Hmm.
ways to make it so cheap. You can, just like starting there and then just like presenting. And then even if you're just
Hmm.
presenting to like 10 people, take videos of it, and then more than 10 people can see it online. So it's just like just having that moment where you're like wanting to put in that initial effort because it still feels like I'm not doing that now. Like it's still like guys show up, guys look at this, and maybe it always feels like that. I guess it is, that's the name of the game. So get used
Hmm.
to it now, like
Yeah.
just gotta don't be afraid to take the first step. I always remember like the hardest step is starting, like
Yeah.
with anything, with sketching, with starting like after I'm done with this podcast, I'm gonna like head to like the next room and start sewing, and I know that's gonna be like,
Hmm.
oh, I have to start, like, oh, fuck. But once I'm
Yeah.
in the role, once I'm in the once I've started, I'm like on a roll and I can like just go. So just start,
Yeah.
just make something and then go. Who cares? Don't think about it, don't look back. If you think it's bad, no you don't, just put it out
Yeah.
there and then just keep
That's
going.
real.
There's also another advice that I like, there's like all these little things that I always remember like almost every day. Like there
Hmm.
was an art teacher that told me never erase. Like just keep
Mm.
drawing. If you don't like the drawing, okay, move on. Never erase. Like never look back. Never whatever. Don't change
Hmm.
it because who knows? You might look back and be like, oh, that initial idea was actually pretty good. Maybe I'll stick with this.
Hmm.
Or you can see that your own development and you can learn more about yourself as you do that, having that documented. So just keep going. Like I look at my past collection, I'm like, damn, that sucks. But then I'm like, no, there was really something there. Like I was experimenting with an essay that I still go back and reference. Like I reference myself in certain ways, like, oh, this like tired black lace that like is so popular and everybody does it. And that's just like da 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 da. But it's like, nope, I'm gonna just keep doing it. It's part of the brand. And I can like evolve from that. So it's like, you know, there's so many different perspectives you can have on that. Mm-hmm.
So what do you have coming up that like you would want people to know about or you want to share? Anything exciting?
Yeah, like we talked about before, the collection September 10th. It's going to be at a cathedral in Chelsea. It's going to be at a beautiful venue. I've shown here before, so if you've been to a show before, it's going to be at that one. The collection is titled Eidos, the Serpent of Shame, so it's going to be kind of pulling these like Grecian inspiration, but also staging something of a court case, and it's going to be staging a lot of different shames in a very theatrical kind of way. But yeah, that's the biggest thing. We're a month out. Like, if you want to come, get tickets at Renacio.com. There are VIP tiers and there are general admission. And the show actually is featuring an art gallery 3 hours before the show. So instead of waiting in your bench for the runway to start, there's going to be an art gallery at the base of the church that's going to feature a lot of like art vendors. So it'll be like a little thrift area underneath where you can like
cool.
Look at other designers' jewelry, other designers' clothing brands, and other designers that are like just within the kind of realm of Renacio. And then the runway starts at 7:30. So very excited for that event. This is the first time also that I'm showing a solo runway, and I'm producing the whole thing myself. So I'm in charge of everything aside from the runway itself. So very excited. I've had some bad luck in the past with producers, and so now I'm just like, it's finally me alone, and it's gonna be fabulous. So please come. I would love to see you all there.
Oh my gosh, I want to go.
Yeah, come, please.
Yeah. Tickets at Renacio.com. I'll show all of it on the screen so people can definitely come and find you. Because I know there's a lot of people that like would love to go to a fashion show, especially yours.
It's like an excuse to get dressed up with your friends too. Like, come to Fashion Week and dress up. Like, I'm like, and the tickets, there's like a little disclaimer of like extravagant dress, you know, like I love seeing people just show up. Like, I have drag performers that just like show up and drag, and they're not in the show or anything. They show up. I'm like, yes, that's like my crowd. Get here, get in here.
I love that. I love that. It's amazing. Well, thank you so much for joining us for this episode. I think it was so enlightening and so inspiring just to hear about everything you have going on. And it was just so interesting. And I think everyone's going to really enjoy this. And so, yeah, I just wanted to thank you. And yeah.
Thank you so much for having me. This is really fun. I love chatting about, like fashion. It's like what my life revolves around. So if I can spread any knowledge and help anybody, also, last recommendation before we get off. If you're an artist and this is Artists of All Kinds, a book that I always get back to that inspires me is Big Magic. So look up Big Magic on Audible. Listen to it. It's like 5 hours long and it's so inspiring. It makes you like cut out your ego in a way, and it just makes you do art. It like inspires you to do art just for fun. And it's like, I listen to it all the time. I'm re-listening to it right now. That's why I thought of it.
Oh, I love that. I know it's a good recommendation. It's always helpful. Yeah, definitely. Well, thank you so much. I'll talk to you soon.
Thank you. See you soon.